maybe subjecting himself to a counter matchup.
I think I'm okay, though, with the trade of Nefiri for Vi, if this ends up being either or. Doesn't mean that Nico gets on through, and that could be something that FPX actually answer. We're getting the Rumble blind from Flandre. Again, one of the issues that we had talked about was that Flandre, even in some of these winning lanes, does not always transition his leads necessarily. So I think if you're FPX, you might be feeling comfortable with just a Vi Nico 1-2, secure a great matchup, and give Jwei one of his best champions so far this season. And I think that AL have to immediately snap up the Kaisa. It's been one of the best pairings for Nico and gives Kaisa a laning partner that's going to be able to kind of scoot her along through a weaker laning phase.
Nefiri was left up for Tarzan to play, and I think the strategy here for AL is just picking the champions that have been overpowered for the entirety of split number 2. Those are the Rumble for Flandre and potentially this Nefiri here for Tarzan. Going to let that one be selected by the jungler for AL, and we'll see if they do want to lock in some of that bot lane, try to get somebody like that Kaisa that you were alluding to, or if maybe Shanks doesn't want to get continually banned out in that second phase, and we just try to lock something in for him instead.
I feel like this has to be a Ryze, because if this is the Kaisa that I was expecting, then I think it's fine. But Ryze pairing with Nefiri is just too strong, and especially if you feel like Shanks is going to continue to get targeted, that might actually end up being a pretty big issue. So instead, we're going for the Ahri. I was maybe hoping to see something like a Victor coming out from Kael. Maybe this also could have been that legendary Kassadin angle, but I know it's pretty early on into the draft. So back end of this, we're going to be seeing, I think, Kaisa come on through as a potential ban. Also have to start thinking about some weaker AD carries, maybe even a Jhin, trying to kind of help, again, with that early laning phase.
So a lot of possibilities here. We're looking for a bot laner and a top laner for FPX at this point. Full bot lane still on the table for anyone's legends. The Kalista is another one of those classic pairings alongside the Nico. You can throw the Nico straight in with that Fate's Call, and then of course that Pop Blossom does a lot of work. Heavy bot lane focus here in terms of the bans though, as Hope now getting some of his champions taken away.
Alright, well, what FPX have already shown right now is that they're going to have a pretty good pick. Again, Ahri Vi, this 2v2 is going to be very deadly. And with the Nico as well, it makes team fights very easy to actually try to find at least one kill. Maybe, I think that you could try to go for an aggressive bot lane. Again, that Kaisa is banned, and AL are going to be a team that are pretty tanky, or at least deceptively so, with how much HP they have access to. So we're going for the neutralizer in Ornn. Great setup here, and potentially even kind of tapping into some of that scaling that FPX will now have access to with this champion.
And interesting because it means that they want to leave that last pick for Awesome in the bot lane. See what he could potentially whip out here. AL now will have to lock in a bot lane of their own. Champion like Ashe still on the table for either of these guys. I think that could be a champion that could be highly prioritized. Similar level of utility here for the Jhin instead. So Hope going to be happy with that one. We'll see what Kael wants to do to wrap up this draft. Rel still on the table. Things like the Leona. I don't know. There's a lot of options here for anyone's legend.
Yeah, I think the issue that I have with Ashe is that she ends up kind of in a situation where she just gets engaged upon constantly, and then if Ornn's ever in front of her, she's just like spamming arrows, and this guy's just taunting her the entire time. So FPX, Awesome's Draven going to be coming on through yet again, and now with the Nico, a very, very strong lane here. Jhin and Leona going to have to try to do their best in this game to stand tall against their opponents. AL will have very strong spikes on 1 and 2 items, but as this game goes forward, who is really going to be able to tank up this Ahri and Vi combo? Who is going to stop this 2v2 from kind of flipping the matchup? Maybe we see some early lane swaps to trying to get the kill onto Flandre and make a dive. I think FPX are kind of really advantaged in this one. I feel like it is much easier for them to find fights.
Especially around that aggressive bot lane that has been set up. Awesome has that pocket pick Draven, as we have seen a little bit in this split. Undefeated on it so far. The last time we saw it was against WE in the first round robin stage. So going to be playing it again, this time against a bit of a stronger opponent, I think many people would argue, in anyone's legend, who again have lost now 3 games in a row. Not matches, but games. That 2 over BLG, and now 1 to FunPlus Phoenix. They're going to desperately want the opportunity to flip that script, force a deciding game number 3. But FPX, of course, want to do the same. They want to make sure that they're in a position where they're feeling confident about themselves in the second half of the season. Get closer and closer to that play-in stage. Game number 2 about to begin. It's FunPlus Phoenix taking on AL.
FPX on the verge of making a rather large upset, finding their second series win of the double round robin and potentially looking for a bye up into top 5 here in the LPL. AL gonna have to battle back in this series and hopefully bring us to a game number 3.
It will be fun as, yes, we got the Glizzy. They're also cheering for the Glizzy Nefiri.
Yeah.
Yep,
I thought you couldn't read the graphs that were on the screen.
I can't, but I can hear the excitement.
You heard Glizzy somewhere in all of that Mandarin. Okay, respect.
Excitement for the Glizzy is universal, and you can hear it. As
we gonna take you off the broadcast for this one, bro.
All right. Speaking of, Tarzan going for a little bit of an early posture in the enemy right side jungle. We're seeing Shadow on this Vi. Level 1 Vi, not the strongest in terms of dueling threat, so Nefiri can have the opportunity to go a little bit aggressive. They're just going to see exactly what side of the map Shadow is going to be starting on, which is obviously beneficial for somebody who clears that fast.
Wonderful quote. No context needed.
Clip it and ship it, baby.
Yep.
Jungler's
also going to be starting on the opposite side. Nope, I'm not letting you stand on business for that one. We're gonna move on. I'm not letting you talk about Glizzies anymore, at least for the next 5 minutes. But this should be easy for Tarzan to kind of split map. I think this is also a situation where into the Vi, this is something we've seen time and time again. Tarzan, he took like half of one of his camps, got level 2, and is immediately invading. But we got vision of it. You see that red ward already.
Yeah.
He should be able to just immediately come on through and stop this, and Nigo's on their way.
So everybody on FPX knows that this is happening. Tarzan does have his smite, but it's going to be a flip. Going to be secured here by the Nefiri, but here comes the collapse from FPX. Care has the charm available, going to use it on the Shanks, who's body blocking for his jungler, but that could lead to the Rise's own demise. Jwei here as well, only level 1. Ball breaker is flashed away from Shanks, and that's 2 summoner spells blown for AL.
Big win for them. Those flashes being gone. Yes, it is the blue buff away from Shadow. Maybe they can try to keep opening this. I like this from Shadow. Instead of going to his closer camps on bottom side, make sure that you're going on top side so they can try to make this dive. I think this is slightly advantage for AL. And the way that I kind of am trying to logic my way through this is that you're still trying to prepare for a dive for this bottom lane, but now that you know that Shadow is delayed, you've actually kind of stalled that timer and potentially helped out your bottom lane, all things considered. Already the barrier gone from Hope very early on, so Summoner Spell's looking good for FPX, but you have at least stalled some of their win conditions.
And that's a big win picked up for them. The mid jungle was something that you kind of prioritized in the draft, and we were discussing what this Nefiri Rise can do. Obviously, more of like a later, you're really seeing the spikes of what this combo is able to accomplish once we get to the mid game. But being without flash for the next couple of minutes does give opportunities here for FPX. I think in general, Shadow on the Vi could have some more impact in a ganking situation than Tarzan in an isolated setting. So gonna feel pretty good about himself with those summoner spells down. Speaking of, another flip potentially around this Rift Scuttle. Not enough to take it down to 600, which is that crucial number, and Shadow will dash on out, which means that Tarzan will control it. Now in the bot lane, Jwei in a lot of trouble. The Ignite's going to take him down. First blood not secured, as the potions barely keep Jwei alive.
Okay, but now he also needs to be able to block for the Deadly Flourish. Oh, he gets hit, but he regened enough. Shadow will be able to end on this bottom side and still have a lot of his camps up and available, especially with that Gromp and Wolves not taken down yet. So close stuff happening across the map. You can see that push and pull across. Good job coming in from AL to not only help, but also Shanks being able to use some of that priority, dropping the wave first as this rise.
So you see some of the immediate effects of that play in terms of just the gold. Tarzan is up a couple of camps, still has the entirety of his bot side to complete, but the opportunity for gold to go back towards FPX exists in the fact that those summoner spells were burned, and so that is what Shadow has to keep an eye on and keep his mind on. As he kind of maneuvers the next couple of minutes of this one. We're waiting, of course, still until Those grubs spawn. It's going to be a couple of minutes, so the bot lanes will, again, rotate still to that bottom side after taking their first bases. Dragon about to spawn as well. It's going to be the Chemtech to start it off.
All right. Tarzan will be able to hit level 5 a lot sooner than his opponent right now. There might be a play in mid. No flash still for this Rise. Kael can play a little bit more aggressive, but there's not really a minion wave here, so you kind of see the pings. AL no, like he has to be on his Raptors right now, or else he is pretty much griefing himself. And a really big important for the 2.5 minute timer of these grubs is making sure your jungler is able to have level 6 at that timer. It's such an important timer for both of these teams. I feel like if you are AL, you probably are able to utilize the grubs a little bit better. You have this Rise, you also have this Rumble providing priority early on, but if FPX are able to steal at least 1 or 2, I feel like you're in a not too bad spot.
We're continuing to see the Draven stack up here for Awesome as well. This is, again, one of his most prized picks. Always is able to kind of whip it out whenever the situation does allow for it. If he can get a cash in some point early in this laning phase, that could provide a big swing for FPX as well, who again still have the advantage 1-0 in this series, but it looks like AL are aware of that. They're sending Tarzan down to try to put a stop to this lane domination that could be in effect. As you see, some spells being traded by our top laners. Sheer might have to use the flash, but actually just playing his cards very nicely there, knowing he still has another biscuit. And those biscuits really providing value here for Sheer, keeping himself alive.
And these are nerfed biscuits, by the way. Like, they specifically nerfed them so that you don't just, like, spam them later in the game. They're going to give you much more upfront healing early on. Good job from Awesome to at least try to stop some of this, but he's going to be chunked, and maybe that's AL starting up this Dragon. We already saw a pretty early focus from Tarzan and Shanks moving down. Shanks is now coming over. He has the Realm Warp. Tarzan's in the area, and Shadow is going to have to walk all the way back around if he wants to wrap on this play.
The Chunk connects with the Deadly Flourish, and now Awesome, it just gets bursted down before he can do anything. That's first blood picked up for AL. It'll be a 2-for-1 overall as Shadow and Kael now join the fight. Charm is flashed away from Spirit Rush away to dodge away from the rest of the DPS. And so no other kills will be thrown over, but overall, anyone's Legends find the advantage.
2 kills, you get Awesome to lose more of his summoner spells and lose those adoration stacks. Shadow and Kael using their flashes to play a little bit more aggressive. They land absolutely nothing there. And another wave being missed by FPX. So great dive coming in from AL. FPX not really in a position to contest there. End up losing pretty massively and giving over a good gold chunk over to AL's bottom lane and their jungler.
Yeah, I think most notably Tarzan on the Nefiri. Getting that kill early on is going to be very, very helpful for himself. You already had that camp lead by being able to steal away that blue buff. And speaking of, it's been 5 minutes. So I get to talk about Glizzy Nefiri again. I'm surprised that he did not go for one of the chromas, as it has been kind of more popular, but I'm very happy about it because the chromas are very weird. The sausage being like purple, I'm not a fan. Any thoughts?
It's like ube.
Yeah, but it's a sausage. You don't have ube flavored. I mean, maybe I don't want to like misrepresent any cultures here, but I feel like that is not a thing.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You are okay with a walking, talking dog glizzy creature, but the moment it's purple is when is the issue.
I mean, yeah, because you're not eating. I mean, if I went to the hot dog stand and I saw purple, if they gave me a hot dog and it was purple,
I don't think I'm eating Nefiri though.
The whole point is that it's supposed to look scrumptious and delicious, right? Like that's the whole point of the skin, right? Are we agreeing? Are we agreeing?
I feel like the point of the skin is the April Fool's part. You know, is that it's like a jokey skin. It's called Glizzy Nefiri. I think the best part of this skin is not even just the fact that she's a hot dog, but the little like mini wiener dogs that they have. Yeah. They're so cute and kind of derpy looking. Awesome's dead. Awesome is indeed dead.
That is another kill in the Feats of Warfare picked up for AL. I'm back on my 5-minute timers. We also get the full grubs picked up by
I think the point of the skin is that she is a hot dog. That could be true. Observer Ilya maybe coming on clutch with the understanding of the true glizonomics of Nefiri. So it's going to be another kill onto Awesome. I did want to note, I pulled the stat. Draven is his 3rd most played champion. He has 14 and 18 overall on this champ. So 14 wins out of 32, not looking too hot. But, I mean, as AL go on, that's more gold to Tarzan. I think the more important fact for me is that you're going to get closer to some of those item power spikes, which make it a little difficult for FPX to end up trying to go for that scaling advantage. And we just haven't really seen this mid-jungle duo that were so present in that first game really get off to anything here in game number 2.
I mean, losing record overall, but undefeated this split specifically on that Draven. So a little bit of cope there in terms of how he's been able to do, specifically with it on FunPlus Phoenix. But, you know, I feel like for some of these lower end players or some of these newer players in the LPL, when you're, you know, a player like Awesome who is on EDG and then, you know, Rare Atom where they're not necessarily doing well for themselves anyway, that's when maybe the win rate is skewed just a little bit. Take that in consideration. But he's not having the best game right here, which I think is very clear to say. Getting caught out a little bit too much, and Hope has an early Youmu's and will continue to be able to have the higher impact here in this game, at least for the next few minutes.
I mean, the early Youmu's, and then I look at Tarzan already finishing the Spear of Shojin, so I really don't want to get into any fights here and against anyone's Legend. And good ward coverage already, kind of stopping a lot of the early plays from FPX. I think now that they have some of their ultimates, you can maybe start to look for a few more plays. Awesome is still able to get his stacks up. I mean, yes, Draven is down 0-2, but if he makes a cash in the middle of the game, that 600 gold lead that Jin does have is basically going to evaporate. So we'll see what else they can actually end up getting. And that Rod of Ages completion now for Shanks kind of puts a timer on this game. He'll have Seraphs completed at the same time roundabout. So 10 minutes now. Rise is going to be a pretty big problem in this game.
Yeah, kind of having a very quiet game here for Shanks, but doing well for himself. Of course, Rise, one of the few champions still building that Rod of Ages, and he's able to get on out of there. As an attempted dive actually might be turned on its head, as Sheer now going to be the target for all 5 members of anyone's Legends. They send him straight right down, and they'll pick up the kill. It is a 1-for-1 as Kael will fall. But I think overall, you're going to be happy about that if you are AL. More gold into your priority champion is Tarzan continuing to come online. And you're going to be able to match this turret taking on the opposite side for FPX.
And I think I may have missed this during the picture-in-picture. Okay, guys, I think we're going game 3. I think we're going game 3. AL, they got 3 grubs during that. They're going to get the first turret. So that's just feat of strength completed. That's a full turret, all 5 plates being split between Tarzan, Flandre, and Shanks. Flandre's going to teleport top. That is a hell of a lot of gold now for some of the big impact players of anyone's Legend.
They did, in fact, take all 3 grubs while I was berating you about hot dog economics. So that is my bad for...
That's not the term, and you know it.
Glizonomics, yes.
Thank
correct.
you. And Shadow's dead.
Okay. Yeah, invading the jungle, as this is the point in the game where Nefiri can really start to take control after you get a couple of kills. You get this first item in. The Vi suddenly, the dueling power is not enough, as Tarzan really starting to take full control of this one. Get another kill on a Shadow. Continue to really snowball the map as anyone's Legends. They want to make sure that everyone knows that game number 1 was a fluke.
I think it is very funny that game 1 happened where FPX have strong early lanes and they're able to make some work happen. Then we come into game 2. We're kind of excited about FPX. 13 minutes in, 4,000 gold lead for AL. All right, man. Okay. We get in the picture-in-picture what exactly happened. Shadow just walking inside a jungle. He's like, you know what? There's no turret here. Or on my bot lane. They're just going to immediately collapse. And so far, FPX, they just haven't really been kind of firing at the same level that we saw from them in game 1. I mean, that topside dive kind of tells me everything I needed to see. Kael missing a max range charm up against a target that's teleporting away. Jwei overforcing with his ultimate. They got some turret plates on top side, but they didn't contest with the first grubs again.
Anyone's Legends looking for another play here. Nice cancel over the stand aside, but Jwei still in a lot of trouble. Has to flash away over the wall. The curtain call comes out, but nicely dodged away from, but the equalizer. It sends Jwei straight down. That's not Nari, that's an eco. That ends up going for the 6th kill to AL.
Okay, well, they're losing mid priority. You know, Flandre drops about half a wave here just to make sure that they get that kill, but I don't know. AL, they're playing so well around the map now. I think that early game skirmish where Tarzan was able to steal the blue buff kind of put FPX in a bit of a tizzy, and really not having, or they haven't been able to really recover past that. And now Shadow's just caught. All right.
Yeah, not a position that you could be in at this point in the game if you are Shadow. Tarzan using the ultimate just for a little bit of style points, but they were going to get that kill regardless. Tarzan really starting to come online on this Nefiri. Flandre gets a third kill in this game in anyone's Legends, dominating here in this matchup number 2.
All right, Grapes, we talked about odds for game 1 from our Twitch chat channel points. I want to give you the same, the same treatment here, the same question. Over under 25 minutes this game.
Ooh. We are...
I think this game is extremely cooked. You've now given over all of the early objectives.
I think it's over just because the scaling on AL is like where they are able to even do better. So I think they're going to be okay with slowing the map down even more to make sure that they're fully in positions to like close out this game. Like if you accidentally throw yourselves at FPX, Jwei's able to get a 5-man ulti and assume gets pentakill, like that's how you lose this game. So you don't want to play too fast.
True.
So I'll say we go over here.
Okay. I just want everybody. I wanted us to take stock. We have 5 to 6 minutes before Rod of Ages is done for Shanks. We have Hope, who's about 1,600 gold up, or no, he's 700 gold up, but
I think they're gonna take a Baron.
Yeah, maybe there's a Baron play. I think it's realistic that Baron spawns and the game probably hasn't ended, but I am looking 3 minutes on the next dragon, and then you have a potential soul point here. It's tough. I think it's tough. FPX, they're kind of waiting for some of their items. Shear's a long ways away from picking up his upgraded masterwork items, so I mean, I kind of feel bad. Tarzan has a 2-level lead over his opponent right now.
And AL, they look like they don't want to play too slow. They're playing hard and fast here up the top side. They send the Realm Morph over between the turrets for Shanks. And now the response for FPX is going to be trying to get some damage onto this mid-tier 1. Not enough to fully take it down as the collapse is imminent. Tarzan and Kael kind of hovering down, making sure Awesome and Shadow don't get too much.
Maybe I cooked the books a little bit. Maybe I should have said 26.5.
The reason, yeah, like the concept of a 20-minute win is now like a 25, 26-minute win. Just with the way the game is kind of evolved, Baron spawning at 25 minutes. We don't get, if you get a game that's 25 minutes, it's the fact, it's like a lead that's this big, but you're also playing like full early game competition.
We've had 25, 26-minute games in the LPL this season for sure.
Definitely,
and
definitely.
Our lowest time right now is 23:29, and it was TES versus FPX. So maybe FPX, let's cook up some magic. Let's go for the second shortest game of the season.
Yeah, let's try to not break our own record. That would be the best way to. A little small moral victory going into game 3. Hey, at least we were able to drag it out. Force AL to sweat a little bit here, as right now they have not broken a sweat in this second game that they are playing in the second round robin. They're going to get another tower, or their first tower up in the top lane is FPX. That's a small win for them. But the rest of the map kind of not in a great position for them overall, as the Herald will be dropped in the mid lane, and they're going to try to crack this one open as well.
Turret with Herald plus 3 grubs, that's tough. I had actually liked how FPX played the last 2 minutes of play, where right after Shanks had gone for that Realm Warp on the top side, they actually were able to get a push in mid lane. Awesome has been funneled a little bit of gold here, so not all that bad, and now they're able to grab that turret in top side alongside the bounty, with bounties being changed this patch as well. There's a fair amount of gold going back to FPX. They're still 4,000 gold down, but for a team that has an Ornn, I think you're really focused on getting into level 13, getting into level 14. Awesome was only down 700 gold, and he has 300 adoration stacks. It sounds like cope, and I will be honest, it kind of is.
Yeah.
But there are ways, like you had noted, for FPX to kind of come back into this game. Why are we doing locked cam onto care? Okay,
that's
all right.
Very important. I don't know what you're talking about.
I got completely. We even pulled down the HUD and everything. I was very confused. He had to hit those 3 minions.
You think it was like a situation? They would have shown a graphic of it. It was like those are his 5,000 minions taken in the LPL or something like that. I don't know.
That's a disgusting stat. I hope we never see that graphic on the screen.
Drop Dragon spawning here. It will be soul point for anyone's Legend. So FPX feel like they want to fight around this. If they can find a good angle with Jwei specifically on this Nico, FPX could have an opportunity to get a reset, get a stack cash in for Awesome, and they're the ones starting up this Cloud Dragon. Teleport has come in. It's going to be Flandre joining the fight. He just picks up another item for himself. Kael jumps over the wall with the blast cone, and here comes the fight. Dragon secured by Shadow. Call the Forge God does not find anything, as now the bullet time has been opened up. The health bars are taking low. Sheer very, very low. The force shot going to connect onto him. Tarzan not able to take him down just yet. He gets knocked up. FunPlus Phoenix somehow still alive, but the Pop Blossom does not connect. Awesome, the lone survivor on the back line of things as anyone's legend. Shut the door and make sure FPX have no chance of winning this game. It is 4 kills already. Kael on the run. Shanks flashes over the wall to try to shut him down, but he will not find it. Tarzan continuing to jump here. Does not have another proc of the ulti, so it will be very difficult. The Q does not connect, and Kael will escape.
All right, he got a few summoner spells on the back end there, but I mean, FPX, a very Pyrrhic victory, going from a 5,000 gold lead now to a 6.5. Another wave being missed in mid and in bottom lane. FPX, they overforce for that play. Sheer takes a 4th turret shot. I guess the the silver linings for them, you got Dragon, you got the shutdown or the adoration cash in for Awesome, so he finishes his Infinity Edge. Pretty decent damage, and a very similar story to what we've seen in Series Pass for FPX. It is all eyes on Awesome right now as AL. They continue to steamroll this game. There's an Otacon now up and available. Have to imagine that for the next couple minutes, that is really going to be the focus for AL, and they can always make these plays coming into this game.
Take another look at this one. Keep an eye on the Call the Forge God from here. Wasn't able to proc it because that Solar Flare came down from Kael. That's a big play by the Leona, and it allowed for this collapse to become very easy for AL.
Yeah, I just didn't know that that 4th bullet would have been able to land right there, and I mean just the engage is so borked from this moment on. Maybe there's a little bit more if Kael had a bit more HP, or if the team wasn't so split up, but Nico, usually in a choke, it's very strong, but right there only 2 members with the Pop Blossom, that's not amazing. Hey, Shanks doesn't have teleport, so I think that starting the Otacon there was a bit of a Hail Mary coming in from AL. And FPX are going to try to find gold wherever they can. Got to be very careful, especially that Awesome, while he does have summoner spells, he has no reinforcements in mid, so could be easily losing those spells if he's not careful.
Yeah, things looking very grim at this point for FunPlus Phoenix. They're now down 6,500 gold. Even though they were able to stop the dragon stacking, I feel like losing that fight was more costly for them. We finally have that fully stacked Roa for Shanks, and just a very tough situation overall. I do think we're not going to get to that 25-minute mark, or we are going to get to that 25-minute mark. It seems like AL are going to want to try to play around the
2.5 minutes, man. I've never been so happy to see 2.5 minutes in my entire life right now.
It's going to be very close. They're going to have to ace him like right now, I think, if they want to have a chance to start this up. Maybe on the Otacon. It's possible.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they have a wave pushing in mid. They're trying to corral them out of this side of the jungle. Kael does have his ultimate, but Shanks is pushing a mid-wave.
Sheer jumps forward. Lands a steering charge on it too. There's the cease and desist. Jwei finds the Pop Blossom. 2 members from AL are dangerously low. Flandre trying to sort out Awesome, but right now it's Hope that keeps himself alive and is ripping apart FunPlus Phoenix as they aren't able to find any meaningful kills. Only Kael has dropped. Awesome trying to find the kill for Flandre, but he will not be able to. The force shot comes in, and it's a quadra kill for Hope.
Oh, we gotta blame Tarzan. We're taking the Penta away. We're killing Jwei like that. That's the Otacon taken. 23.5 minutes. FPX, they made a great engage, but where was Awesome? It was Flandre tanking up all of that attention from the AD carry of FPX. It's the Thornbound Otacon going over to AL, and with all of these grubs, with Baron spawning in 1:15, I want to look at this replay. It was a great engage from the rest of them. Look at where Awesome is. He doesn't know which way to go. There's an equalizer, but he could have walked over to this side. He loses his summoner spells. Like, FPX look discombobulated. They look unable to get into a fight on the same page, and that could have been a nail biter for FPX, but it just turns into a soft whimper for FunPlus Phoenix as Hope gets his quadra kill and absolutely just predicts everything that Awesome wanted to do.
And you had to try if you're FPX at some point. You knew that the Otacon was going to be started up sooner rather than later. You knew that you maybe found a nice angle with a 2-man knockup from Sheer, but the damage really not there at this point for the rest of the team. Awesome, of course, was not at the fight, so wasn't able to dish out any follow-up. Kael didn't even have his second item by the time that fight really broke out. And Jwei's on the Nico, but he's playing support Nico. That means that the income is very much reduced. All things considered, gold lead up to 10,000. We are going to cross that 25-minute mark, so the over is going to hit here. But not by much, as the Baron is about to come up soon, and AL can probably just rip it on spawn after they clear out this third turn.
AL, you have FPX, you have 5 seconds. FF,
Press
please.
the press button.
No! All right, I'm bankrupt, guys. I mean, it's not like we were making much money from this anyway. This is a fan-made broadcast anyway, so.
That's
volunteers, again, if you want to help out, coffee in the description or in the link below
yeah,
if you want to help.
we bet a month's salary on this.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Who's we? I know we're on the Chinese side. This is not the French. There is no we here.
Shanks actually in some trouble. Death Rush was set up for FunPlus Phoenix. Shanks goes golden, but here comes the equalizer, and here comes Tarzan, and he's seeing red in this team fight, and it's not ketchup, it's the blood of FPX. Dominating the fight once again. It's 4 more kills that go their way, and the Baron will be started up here by anyone's legend. They're going to look to even up this series.
There's a reason why we usually don't give up Nefiri. There was a pretty big hubbubaloo that ended up happening around 3 to 4 minutes of this game, and since then, FPX have just been lost around the map. AL dominating every single lane. Flandre, I had questions for his Rumble. Well, he ends up delivering with this equalizer. Great job, and I think an amazing bounce back here in the series from anyone's legend. We said that history had repeated itself where FPX were able to find first blood. Well, that's continuing to be the case with AL dominating game number 2 of the series.
One of the larger gold leads you're going to see in a League of Legends game. 15,000 at 26 minutes. It's been all AL all the time here, as Jwei looking for one last-ditch effort with the Baron buff already in their hands. The pop lots and finds sleep, but there's just no follow-up. Shadow getting tanked up and taken down by Tarzan. Sure in the back line, going to try to keep things alive. The Realm Warp goes underneath the tower, and AL, 5 strong, are going to march in to the base of FPX and even up our series at 1-1.
That's going to be it. They have got too much going for them. Another ace. It hasn't looked very good. The fact that FPX have only found 4 kills is enough to be said here. 20,000 goal lead between AL and FPX to end game 2.
Pure domination here by AL. It was a 44-minute loss in game 1, a 27-minute win for them in game number 2, and we're headed to a decider.
About what we expected, but damn, if that game doesn't tell you anything, some signature champions, Shadow getting his Vi, I feel like Kael getting Ahri is also another one. We talked a lot about Awesome and Jwei in this bottom lane, and AL just looked unfazed. There was a pretty big question mark. I feel like against any other team, giving them Nico and Vi and Ahri might be a big question mark, but you know, just utilizing this Nefiri incredibly well.
Yeah, you talk about the champions that FPX was able to get. AL got Rumble and Nefiri. And if you've been following the LPL this split, you know that when those 2 champions are on the same side, they generally work pretty well together. And with the Rise as well, that was a really powerful top side that AL were able to set up for themselves. I think one of those players sure to run away with that MVP. Would be surprised if it's not Tarzan in this situation, as the Nefiri was able to do a lot for them, and we'll see if they're able to continue that momentum as they finally snap that 3-map loss streak that we were talking about.
And good for them. This is the bounce back that we needed to see. This is a series that we're coming in with AL being heavy favorites. They should have dominated this series, but part of the reason why they are second and not necessarily first is some of that inconsistency that has been plaguing our top teams. And good to see a good bounce back. I think solid play from everybody all around. I think Tarzan has rightfully earned himself yet another MVP vote with, again, just that early pathing, throwing a really big spanner in the works for...
It looks like there's like we're not match fixing obviously, but like if this was the way to juice the odds, like that's exactly what you would do.
Ah,
right?
yes.
Set up a situation
we want
where
to steal your channel points. We want to siphon your great riches that are coming through from watching the channel.
Yeah. That's clearly what's happening here. As
Yep.
I think goes to show the LPL incredibly unpredictable. As soon as you think that maybe things are a little bit closer and maybe you're liking what FPX are bringing to the table, AL kind of put together what we thought was going to happen in game 1 if we had to put a guess onto our expectations for this series entering the day. But now it is 1 apiece, tied up going into game number 3. If we see a little bit more of what we saw in game number 1 for FPX, I'm sure we'll all be very excited for what this next matchup does have in store.
Yeah, I'm just worried now because like that felt very much like the AL that we know and love from the regular season. Just really clean play, still keeping it very aggressive, all things considered. Great map movements in particular from Tarzan and Kael, and I mean, hell, a good enough performance for FPX. I mean,
look at it. Kael would have done the second most amount of damage on anybody on FPX. It's only
he did more damage than Shadow. He did more damage than the enemy mid laner. I mean,
he would have been second highest on his team
yeah,
on FPX.
Yeah,
that's
I
crazy.
mean, I think
Leona,
FPX could have also had a 6th member, and they probably still would have lost this game with how it was looking. So tough look for them. And this is also, I think, the FPX that kind of comes out at night sometimes. You know, we get a game where Sheer and Shadow or Kael and Shadow just are not able to get much done. I mean, just that flash EQ from him, I had many questions. And I think with this highlight package, maybe they're giving it over to Kael. He had a ton of picks down onto the rest of AL. Or FPX.
It feels like the Observer team always kind of has a choice of who they want to pick as the MVP. And I think right now they're leaning Kael off of the first 2 clips that they did choose for us. But overall, just a very dominant performance by Anyone's Legends in general. And I do want to give some credit to FPX. They were looking for opportunities. They did not just roll over and die. They at least tried to fight things out, even though they knew it was largely doomed. And that shows the proactivity, and we saw some decent stuff from them, but at the end of the day, it just was not enough.
I just think, like, the early game didn't go well for them. They ended up still losing the 2v2. I remember we were like, oh, look, they got Flash out of jungle and mid, but I think that ends up helping a little bit. We never saw them really be able to revisit the Rise lane early on. Obviously, Draven got kind of cut out from the rest of his gold lead that he really wanted early on with the 2 kills that Tarzan were able to grab bottom lane. It just felt like a lot of the early game golds that we were, or leads that we wanted to see from FPX never really came to fruition, and the game is already hard enough to play from that moment, and it definitely didn't get any easier for them.
Some angles again. This is another one here on the Shanks. If they were just a little bit less far behind, this could have maybe been a good opportunity for them. But Shanks actually had himself a good game on the Rise. Nice bounce back from him after he had a very poor performance on the Yone, I would say, overall in that first game. And the rest of AL just able to really bounce back off of it and pick themselves up that fight. This is the last one that opens up as Jwei does find the Pop Blossom, but there's really nobody else that's able to do any significant work.
Like, his team is literally set up to succeed, and Jwei's like, I'm getting no help. There's no one around me. Like, this guy is Pop Blossomed, and we can't land Ari ult Charm. Damn it, man. How can win? So we'll see how FPX bounce back in this game number 3. AL just incredibly dominant again, and I'm kind of looking forward to what else they're gonna have, because AL in a very similar fashion. After this, they have 5 matches. The next 3 are gonna be Weibo, Thundertalk, and NIP. So if they end up winning here today, they'll end up moving to 10-3. They win 2 of those matches, they'll end up going to at least 12-3, 12-4. Flandre gets it?
Yeah, I can see it. The KDA looked good at the end. Was able to dish out some nice damage with the equalizers. They did highlight a couple of nice equalizers that he did have. And also, it speaks to the narrative, right? Our top laners, each trading MVPs, now in that decisive game number 3. One last chance for either of them to close this series out and give their team the win.
I want to take nothing away from Flandre, a legendary player of the league, but to our voters for the MVP, we got to be putting the dogs in the buns after this, bro. We are not at all voting for Flandre this game. Whatever, man.
Yeah, give it to the Glizzy next time. As I know that's what my vote would have been, obviously. But we're all locked up at 1 apiece. It will be FPX back on blue side, heading into the final game of this series. We'll see if that means anything for them, and if they can bounce back and pull off the upset once we return from this short break.